let's start honestly by saying that it was supposed to be a different panel. Someone couldn't come. We arranged this at the last minute. So let's glue it all up. And by the way, we have only one designer here in the team, and he's doing branding. So we'll ask him how has that got to do with product design in a second. An investor and marketeer, if I'm correct, and a product guy that I think all of us are working with designers, and we can testify on how we do that, right? Maybe we should start by introducing what each of us are doing and how it's related to design, product design.
Sure. So I got my background in product and growth for mobile app companies. Spent more than a decade doing that. And on the side, had a lot of friends that were doing cool stuff. Started investing in some of them. And then eventually just kind of started doing that more and more. And ended up becoming a full-time angel investor. And so, my role as, a product person and design person, but really also think about how design interacts with the startups, how their users are going through their user journeys, and the experiences that they have.
Cool.
I think I will give you a little bit context. When I opened the company 20 years ago, most of the products that came to do branding with us was real products, like shoes, juice, or I don't know. And in the last 20 years, I think with the digital age, I think all the branding processes, especially with brands that are only digital, had a really huge change. So I have perspective about product design from a lot of sides and a lot of ears. So it's interesting, the conversation.
So I'll add that I started with games. So developed like 40 games and a platform for games. So I worked a lot with illustrators, with animators, with designers, product designers, did apps, and later joined Facebook. And with Facebook, we had a team of designers because we have also an app, not Facebook, a research app that we created. And now my team has 12 product managers and designers. So that's my background. So maybe I'll start with a question for Saar. How brand design and product design are related?
How they're related? I think the first question you need to ask is, what is the role of the product in the ecosystem of the brand? Because there are some products that are the brand, like Facebook, Instagram, or apps products. And there are some products that are between the physical world and the digital world. So you need to ask the first question, where the product is in the ecosystem. I think this is the first question you need to ask. And then, after you understand it, you need to ask another question. What is the role of the business model of the product in the context of the brand or the company?
And your branding team works with the product design team together to implement everything?
Yes, yes. And it's really important because you have a lot of functional things in a product, but you need emotional things because all the people are emotional. So you need to combine between functional and emotional.
What's your experience working with designers and product designers?
Actually, I'd love to kind of get more sense of the audience. Would love to just kind of see how many of you work at startups like less than 20 people, how many of you are kind of doing corporate or working in larger corporations, how many running your own business, just get a better sense of how we could gear this conversation, because I don't really know who's in the room. So if you work in a smaller startup and you're kind of looking for that, could you raise your hand? Okay. And if you work at a larger company and are thinking about how to use design in your kind of larger operations? Okay. So it's a mix of both. So, I'm probably like a weird person to have this panel, because although I think design is extremely important, I don't want to presume how people think. And so I tend to approach everything through data and through numbers. And so when I think about design, what I try to do is figure out what are the different options of ways that people could think or could interact with this product, and then A/B test it. Again, I kind of think that, we go and we experiment, we get this data, and that data is what really drives us. And I know there's other people out there who are very, user experience focused and think that it's horrible to A/B test everything, but I just don't think we know, and I don't like making assumptions about the people that are using our product. And I think especially as, small businesses or even large corporations, we only think we know who's going to use our product or what they're going to use it for. And so I often tell people, like, try out really different, big design type of changes and see which one actually resonates with your audience. You don't know necessarily if the people that are using your product are going to go through the path that you think they will. And so, sorry, is there a question from the audience? So I used to work at Agoda, which is a large travel company, and they're very kind of data and experiment driven. They would literally be doing thousands of experiments each quarter, with different paths, different pricing, different landing pages, whatever you could think of, they would just test it. And you'd be surprised at how often, things that you wouldn't think would make a big difference can. And so what I usually suggest is just trying to get it out there, trying to see how real users are using it. If you know who your users are going to be, maybe sit down with them, show them the options, or see how they interact with it. Right? I think there's a lot of things that we can get even early on without having to make big assumptions of what our customers are going to be like.
I want to add that each one of you has a different version of Facebook in your pocket right now, because there are 60,000 engineers at Facebook working on experiments, and they are running in parallel all the time. So internally in Facebook, there is a system called the Deltoid, which is an A/B testing system. And each one of us has a very different combination of tests. So you'll open and compare, and some of us will have different navigation at the bottom, some of us have different colors, different locations. And you can do it now because one of the VP of engineers went out of Facebook and created StatSig. So there is a really good tool that you can all use for A/B testing, and it's free up to, I think, 500 million events, something crazy like that. So it's basically free. Statistically significant, StatSig. And you can do multiple A, B, C, D, E, F, G tests in parallel and see what's going on. But I think that what we didn't cover, and you said something that I want to continue discussing, it that you are afraid to lose the essence of the product. And I think that there is no time for change. The only constant is change. If your product is not changing, it's not improving, meaning that you're doing something wrong. The only time that is not changing is the first launch. you have no idea. You can't test. Well, you can even test, mock-ups, and you can show people mock-ups, and you can do user testing, which is great, and now very cheap as well. But you launch, you gather information, and then do the A/B testing. And I think that Saar can also discuss about keeping the essence no matter what the flow is and no matter what the design is, because it's about the emotion, it's about the color, texture, the feel that the app is giving you, not the flow of the feature. Maybe.
I have a different question. How many designers are here in the product design? Okay, so the question, as a designer, the question is for you and for you. I worked with a lot of hundreds of designers in my life, and they are not easy to manage. How do you work with them, with designers, as over the years, as a person that didn't come from design and don't have the same tools? How do you work with them?
Yeah, so I don't want to make generalities, but I do feel like a lot of designers, there tends to be certain characters that I've noticed, right? And I used to work very close with a designer, and we used to make this joke that she sees things in colors and emotions, and I see things like Terminator and numbers and data, and I'm assessing the possibility, right? And so, but the reason why we started clicking is we started like being able to go back and forth about, oh, I feel like this thing is happening. Can you go and look and see what the numbers show, right? And then there would be something in the data there. And sometimes I would go and then data and say, okay, something's wrong here. We're losing a bunch of users. It should be like, oh yeah, because it feels like this, or there's some emotion there. And so I think part of it is finding that counterbalance to you. I can't be a Terminator and build a product for everybody. Like, you have to have that emotional component as well. But I think it's being able to use the data and the emotions at the same time, and knowing that you have a good partner who's that kind of counterbalance to you. So if you are a designer and you are really all about the emotion and the feel and you want the customer love, I get it. But you also need to be able to measure that love and you need to be able to understand that love. And the way you usually do that is through data and getting nerds like us to look at the analysis.
So I have a different answer, very different, because I look at it from a product perspective, and all product people think that they can design. So then there is this relationship between product and design, which is where is the border, right? And I think it got to do with testing the water. So I'll work with a designer or an illustrator or an animator, and I'll see how much pushback will I get when I give directive, exactly specification, or they will, let's give an example to make it concrete. I have a flow for an app. I will design the flow and ask it, okay, make it pretty, right? Design it. But basically, I gave the solution. And then two things can happen. One is the designer will give me a really good design of my flow. Another one will say, no, I'm not going to do that. Give me the problem and let me offer the solution and the design. But the design, making it pretty and putting sparkle on top is the last part, is not even the interesting part for that designer. And those are two categories that I found working with designers. One is a doer that is doing, I don't know what's the proper name in English for that. It is just performing the task and not really dealing with the problem. And I learned that at Facebook because I came from my own companies. I did games, and I worked with designers at Ukraine and Poland and outsourced it. And they were extremely creative when I gave them exactly what to do, right? And told them, yes, and I want it in this style, and I gave them an example from this website. And then I came to Facebook, and I tried to do the same, and it didn't work because I'm working with designers who want to work with their problems, and they want me as a product manager to really define the problem. Where is the pain? Have an empathy to the customer. Give that to the customer. And I think the question to you on that is, how important do you feel it is for the designer to have empathy to the customer and meet the customer?
I think I saw a lot of designers. Most of them didn't feel or didn't touch the person they are designed for. I think most of them are afraid from the feedback, afraid from the what they will say. So I think it must be part of the process that designer must understand and must know and talk and hear what the customer, and there is no one. It's not one. It must, because otherwise you sit with your computer and with your head, and you can do something, but it will not be something that will take 2 steps ahead.
We went on trips to meet customers with the design team together and meet the customer in the environment and have it was a life-changer event because we went back to the office and we had an easy conversation, say, oh, you remember that, you remember how he said that, you remember how the house was and what they ate and what that was all there.
There is a really famous method, I think IDEO invented this, called be the patient. You need to be the who use the product to understand the product.
I think there's, I don't know if everybody's seen the show Silicon Valley on HBO, but I feel like that is like Startup 101 for, if you haven't seen it, you should probably go watch it, because like there's so many case examples that you kind of like represent from that show. One of them is kind of the product design, right? Where they actually ended up having all these people come in and sit in a room and try to walk them through the product, right? And their version of what people were going to do it and how like intuitive it was or whatever was completely different than what the customer journey is. So you do need to have that face-to-face conversation and get that understanding, because sometimes you don't even know what their journey is and you wouldn't even think about it because you're coming at it from a completely different perspective of an engineer or a designer and not from your customer, who has a completely different set of experiences, completely different life and needs out of your product. So.
Funny thing is that the writers of that show went into Meta and other companies to interview and have empathy to the guys who are running it, to learn and have stories in the show. So that's a design work they did for them.
I have a question. It's connected to the question she asked before for you. How do you handle with the when company decided to change the product? How do you handle after all the process and you are sure it's the right direction? How do you handle with the drop after you launch it? What is the method?
First of all, let's align everyone that when you change a product, no matter what you do, even if you think you'll improve it, there is a drop because there is a change in user behavior, so they get lost at first, right?
No matter what. So usually you have to wait and see. And then the other thing is that with the experiments, you're always going to see some sort of drop off or some sort of change. And in the end, a lot of it is just numbers. And although numbers don't lie, they can be influenced, or there can be these weird exceptions, right? So even if something's right 99 out of 100 times, if you run that test again, maybe it was the one time where it was giving you weird numbers or weird results. And so, we would often do double test or triple test to make sure that we were really seeing the impact of what we wanted.
For me, there are two options. Either you can do A/B test, and then you see the drop, but you limit it for 5-10% of the users, and you're looking for retention over time, you look for the curve to come back, you look for what you optimize for when you do that, when you started to look for the change, what was the goal and are you hitting it? And then if you see that it works well, you go all in with the 100%. That's the easy part, right? There are cases, I remember that we completely redesigned the game environment. There is no A/B test to that. We couldn't handle having two versions of the entire platform running at the same time. We just couldn't do it. It's like a drop in the stock market. You need to be strong. You need to drink water and know that it will pass.
Exactly. Yes.
So, yeah, it's like investing. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
What would you say are the three key metrics? What are your three key metrics to analyze if a product is achieving your goals or not? Like, what do you use? Is it amount of users, interactions? Like, where do you see the most value coming out of a product?
So the answer is it depends, right? And part of it is also coming at it from an investor standpoint. I want to know what you think it is, right? I want to understand what you think is the most important thing in your customer journey. So there's the basic obvious things, right? Like the customer retention, the engagement, their DAU, the MAU, these kind of basic stats, right? But what's the one that's most important to you? What's the one that's the signal that shows you that you're on the right path? And why is it, right? Like I think understanding that from a founder is extremely important to me, because that way it kind of shows me how you see the world, how you see your customers, how you see your product, and what you're trying to do with it. So it could be different for different companies, and even within companies doing very similar things, I think they often will have different KPIs that drive them.
Let's take, for example, a few companies we all know. What is the key metric for Facebook? No. Any other guess? No. Daily active users. That's what they are optimizing for. What's the top metric for YouTube? No. Watch time. They optimize for watch time. They want you to watch as much as possible. That's what. And how did they get to it? They get to it because they are looking for the key metric that will, if they optimize it, it will cascade and drag everything with it. If they see that a person will watch a lot of videos, other people will do it too, and they just need to get them in the door, right? But it means that their mechanism to show you more videos, and you watch more, and you watch more, and you sit like a zombie, works. Then they have a machine, and that's how they optimize.
But the thing is that like for other sites, time on site is a horrible example, right? If I'm a bank and people have a large time on site, I'm doing something wrong, right? Like I want people to get in and get out, make their transactions as quickly as possible. So again, it kind of depends on what you think it is for your business. And you know, I would kind of sets how you drive your business as well. So I would have conversations with you and your co-founders, like what are we really trying to achieve?
Let's tie it to design as well, to product design. If the designers are aware of your key metric, it will change all your design for the better. They need to be part of that conversation. They need to track those metrics, because if they care and they are exposed to this dashboard, YouTube will not have the sidebar close to the video by default if the watch time wasn't important, right? There are other ways to do it. It will not show you the next videos if it was not a key metric. It will not do da. It's all optimized for that. That's the North Star. And everyone needs to have 1 or 3, not more, North Star metrics to optimize to, and make sure the entire company, especially the designers, but the entire company are optimizing for those metrics. Do you agree, Saar?
Yeah.
Any other question? Oh, we're out of time. Last
Yeah,
question.
all right. time for one more question. So we,
Okay.
Startup, a SaaS tax startup, and I'm debating how I have my conversion rate because I have a 3-month trial, but when the 3-month trial expires, I didn't do the taxes. But the people are not like paying for the service. And if they didn't pay, they have fines of the SAT, of IRS. So I'm be struggling to have that conversion rate. I think looking backwards, it was a mistake giving a 3-month trial, but I want to know what your thoughts about that. I have to ask the method of payment. No, the first time they register, but they don't know what the app does, or I have a 3-month trial and they try it and they see the value and they pay for the value because I think yeah, you have to do it. Death and taxes, you have to do it.
So, I think it depends on how you use taxes or how people plan on using taxes. The way I do my taxes is I wait till 2 weeks before tax day, and then I go and I email everything to my accountant and go take care of it. Right? And then I'm not going to think about it again until the next year, 2 weeks before taxes. So if they use the product to pay their taxes and they have 3 months extra, are they even using it? Right? Or is it just a one-time thing that they use it for a week and then? Okay. Yeah. So the other thing that I would do is you have this list of people who used your product and aren't coming back. I would go sit down with them and ask them why, right? Have these conversations with them, offer them another 3 months free. See if they would come back if you gave it to them free. Obviously you can't keep on giving your product away for free forever, but maybe there was something that you did wrong that you can adjust, but I would ask them.
I did some experiment a month ago, so let me give you the results. Ask for a credit card on onboarding without charging it, just verifying that it works in order to give the free trial. You can change the free trial, don't give 3 months, give a week. They can test it, don't worry about that. And give them the way to opt into continuing the subscription the moment the trial ends without doing anything and getting a discount for doing that. Okay, so then smooth sailing, no friction, just continue.
Right now I just add a paywall, and if they want to use invoices and all that,
Yeah.
Invoices and all that, they have to pay for the users for using the app. So I just decide to do that, and the people are paying, but the conversion rate is not so good. So I'm just trying to figure out which is the best ways. Because
let's take it offline because we need to wrap up. And thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.